Get off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station, home to the Asian Oprah, number one talk in the IE. Thank you very much. And streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, Streaker, Spreaker, and more. AM 1050, FM 106.5. And if you're looking for the headlines this morning, you will not find them on this show because I want to balance out all of the negative news out there. And Lord knows there's a lot of it because if it bleeds, it leads. And I just don't like feeling bad first thing in the morning, actually anytime all day. So instead, for the last 678 consecutive weeks, I have been broadcasting most of the time live for you to balance out all the bad news with good news, with great guests, great series, and great co-hosts. Today is absolutely no exception. Y'all see, it must be Wednesday and time for Doctors in the House with myself and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
She's a U.S. Navy veteran, published author, retired OBGyn from Compton, California, playwright, singer, poet, songwriter, and more. She's the published author of many books, including an important children's book called Bad Touching, which is my favorite, and her newest one, Money Matters. And you'll hear more about that in the middle break of the show. But please do welcome back to live here, Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
Always a pleasure to be here. Happy Wednesday, people. Woohoo!
Happy Wednesday is right. I am so delighted that you're here with us. Don't see any identifiers in the cashew gallery yet, but I'm sure at least one of your sorority sisters will be a captain of the cashew gallery as well. I am, let's see, we're going to start with breakfast, which is taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich, which is how we start every weekday. Every weekday morning on the show. Top of the bun, things you're grateful for. Bottom of the bun, things that you like about yourself. So as you can tell, I woke up on the very happy side of the bed this morning in gratitude. So I'm going to start off with, I am grateful that this is the eve of the 13th year for this particular show that was not supposed to last a year, because I don't talk about the headlines. I talk about heartlines, and y'all were wrong if you were saying that. And I'm so happy to, this is the last day of my 12th year. And for that, I am truly grateful.
I'm grateful for that too. But I am grateful that I had the fabulous opportunity to experience the opening night of the Beyonce concert with my darling bundle of joy, Mia Michelle. And we had the glamorous opportunity of seeing her perform on stage at SoFi Stadium. And it was a wonderful experience to see the Cowboy Carter concert.
Wow, that is so cool. That was last night? Or
it was Monday. That was the opening in Los Angeles. Yes.
Wow, that's so cool. I have not had the pleasure of seeing her in concert yet, but I do everything once in life. I'm grateful and excited. Next week, to celebrate my first year. I'm going to be 13th year. I'm going to be celebrating all month, by the way. I have great guests coming up. The returning Chris Wark, the guy who beat stage 4 cancer with a vegan diet. Chris Wark. I have Lucille Ball's daughter, Lucy Arnaz, coming tomorrow. And I have, let's see, Layla Ali, 4-time undefeated championship boxer, daughter of Muhammad Ali, who's been on the show three times, is a friend of mine, and she is going to come on where she's traveling, but she's going to be able to come on with a remote studio. And what gratitude I have that I have the coolest people as friends, thanks to this show. What are you grateful for?
I am also grateful for, I'm not sure if you've heard of the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, FCCLA.
Nope.
Well, it is a statewide competition, and they look for the best high school leaders throughout the state of California so that they can go and represent California in a nationwide contest. And I was selected to be a judge.
Wow.
And the opportunity to participate as a judge in that competition. It was an awesome experience to do that and to mold these young minds, because I believe that each one should teach one to help uplift and edify the next generation. And I just love to help mold the future, because I think we should all help contribute to society.
Absolutely. I love warping young minds all the time. No, seriously, that's fabulous that you got to do that. Throw my name in the hat. I would love to join you, or be considered.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful that Mom T's here. She's grateful to hear 2 beautiful ladies. Love you as well. So excited next week I get to see Mom T, and she's going to bring some of her cooking. No, I'm kidding. We're going to go see Annie, the musical next week, and I'm excited about that. Let's go to the bottom of the bun, which is, what do you like about yourself? It's weight training, so that we're not looking for love in all the wrong places or approval, looking for likes literally on social media. And instead, we know how to affirm ourselves, which is part of the topic today, not to give it away, to love ourselves, self-care. So a lot of us were raised, you're not all that, or don't toot your own horn. And I understand the humility around that, and well-meaning parents, sometimes more mean than well. And I just really know that at the end of the day, I can choose to listen to the critic in my head that tells me I didn't finish this, or I shouldn't have said that. Or I can choose to say, no, 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 no. I did the very best that I could with the time and resources that I had. And I like this about myself. So that's why we do this every weekday morning. Because frankly, my dear, if you can't approve of yourself, how the fork do you expect anyone else to? So, Dr. Tiffanie, what do you like about yourself?
I like the fact that I am focused on community, and I am focused on serving the community. I also participated in the American Heart Association Heart Walk, and as a pericarditis survivor, that is important to me.
What is that? That sounds like a disease. It is a
Well,
disease.
well, it was inflammation of the heart. I experienced that 10 days after knee surgery, and it was something that they did not expect. So I had this expensive workup, and it resolved. It was a blessing that it did
Wow.
resolve. So it was a transient disease. I was one of the fortunate ones that it was transient for me, because I overcame it and I combated it. But it was inflammation of the pericardial sac, which is the sac surrounding the heart. And at that time, I had to have a bed downstairs. I was in a hospital bed. I had to use a bedside commode. I couldn't even walk to the restroom. And the
Wow.
kids, I talk about the children taking care of the mom. They had to change my bedside commode. So it was a rough time during that time, but I had
Wow.
inflammation around the heart wall. And so that's what pericarditis is.
Got it. Got it. Well, I'm grateful you're healed from that, and that was a one off. I'll say that. Yeah. I appreciate that I put my life jacket with a silver lining on every single day, and the show is a beautiful way for me to practice what I teach, because people come here not to be alarmed or to gossip or to think about the worst case scenario. So I joke around that I've done this show for this long, for me, so that I stay on the most, with that life jacket with the silver lining. And then if you are inspired to be positive or motivated to love your life, then that's a side effect. The main effect is actually for me. So I appreciate that I know what's good for me. And most of the 88% of the time, I do practice what I teach, despite the name of the show. One more, Dr. Tiffany.
And I am grateful that I am able to support others. A lot of times, everyone wants to be the star and everyone wants to be the center of attention. And I believe
I
that
don't know what you're talking
there's
about.
I know there's a time and a place to be the center of attention, but there's also a time and a place to not be the center of attention and to allow others to be the center of attention. And I believe I have found that balance to where I want the spotlight and when I don't want the spotlight. And I believe that I have learned to identify that situation.
Beautiful. I will close out. I appreciate my not losing the embarrassment and the shame that came from my culture for being the center of attention. I was taught that that was not a good thing. The nail that stands up is hammered down. And so for years and years and years, I would still do it, but I felt so much shame. And I appreciate that. I learned on uh, probably my 6th year on the show. I had an astrologist come on and read my full chart, and she said, "OMG, you are a Leo." I said, "Of course I know I'm a Leo." She goes, "No, no, no, you're a Leo in 5 planets." I'm like, "What's that mean?" She goes, "That just means you can't help yourself. You gotta be in front of the camera. You gotta be winning. You gotta be on top. You gotta be." And all of a sudden, literally 8,000 pounds of shame, because I do it, but I feel bad about it. Now I can own, I can't help myself.
You're the
That's
super Leo, and it's all good.
so yeah. All right, thank you for joining us for breakfast this morning. I just love uh doing this because it allows me to catch up with my co-hosts as well. I don't let them talk to me all week because I want them to catch me up at breakfast. Oh, I did forget too, since you uh highlighted your judgeship. I got to sing and shoot the gun and choke people with
Ooh,
awards at the March for Marrow, the AAMDS, blood diseases. So that was so fabulous. If you haven't watched the videos, they're kind of funny. on my social. It's Doc Balance on Instagram, Dr. Marissa everywhere else. So that is it for breakfast. Thanks for joining Dr. Tiffany and I for taking a bite of our gratitude sandwich this morning. I promise you, if you repeat this good life habit, this hashtag Blisscipline for the next 28 consecutive days to build that good habit, you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. Thanks for joining us for breakfast. And now for the topic of the day. I found my bell. Everything is awesome. I think I dropped it one too many times. Dr. Tiffany, tell me what the topic of the day is.
And hey, you, I couldn't help myself. The topic of the day is self-image. Ba-dum-bum.
Really? Hey, you!
There we go.
Hey! Hey, you!
You like that better than the bell, huh?
I do. Hey, you.
And why, Dr. Tiffany, do you want to talk about self-image?
I think a lot of times, especially with the internet, we get caught up with ourselves and what other people think of us. And I thought about it when you said we're going to be on the show Friday and you want us to think about what we thought of you. And I was like, I think that's important because we often reflect on what we think about ourselves and what other people think of us. And we follow the likes and we follow the hearts. And we are always reflective about our reflection. And I thought, well, let's take a deeper dive into this. Let's smack it up, flip it, and rub it down, right? So,
You have to say that on Friday. And what she's referring to, you get a double dose of Dr. Tiffany this week because it is tomorrow will be year 13, celebrating May 1st, 2012 is when I started the show. And so tomorrow is May 1st. And then I thought this whole month we'll celebrate, but especially the first week. So on Friday, I thought, wouldn't it be great to have all my co-hosts in one place? They have not met each other. And so what a great way to celebrate. So Friday, you have to come back and be with us on the show because it'll be Dr. Tiffany, myself, and then my two co-hosts who are both male they're co-hosts of Straight Talk. Okay, which is a special series. We talk about everything and we put the moose on the table around it, which is my Canadian version of Elephant in the Room. And they're both gay. So it's kind of funny that it's called Straight Talk. They're both gay, both men. We were both women. They are both not people. I mean, they're beige. They're both beige. They're not like people of color like we are. So it's going to be so fun. I cannot wait for Friday. So you're gonna have to say that, flip it, because there's gonna be so much raucous laughter, the whole show. So
I'm looking forward to it.
yes, me too, me too. And I'm putting myself on the line. I'm asking them what what they've learned about themselves and about me, being on the show with me as co-host. So yeah. It's going to be a semi roast, I believe. Hopefully not too badly, but hopefully I'll just be like nice and crispy and not burnt with my roast.
No, we won't burn you. Absolutely not. Doc.
All right. So I know you did some research about self-image.
But first, let's define what self-image is, because self-image is basically one's abilities, basically your appearance, and a look at your personality. So you can look at yourself on a global level. You can look at yourself internally and externally. Sometimes people get confused between self-image and self-esteem. They often get used interchangeably, but they are not the same. There is a distinct difference between the two. Self-image has to do a lot with self-esteem, but they are distinctly different because how we see ourselves is a big contributing factor as to how we feel about ourselves, right? But self esteem goes deeper than self image. Self esteem is an overall sense of respect for ourselves, and it involves favorable or unfavorably how we feel about ourselves, right?
Interesting. I love learning new things. Self esteem and self image are completely different, and self esteem goes deeper than self image.
hmm
I like that.
Yeah, because you can have a negative self-image and it can influence your self-esteem. And you can have low self-esteem, but that can also accompany a negative self-image. But these are definitely not necessarily interchangeable.
Hmm. So, can you have a negative if you can you have low self esteem and a high self image?
Yes, they can fluctuate. Look at it like a roller coaster because you can have peaks and valleys. And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can be like, I look good, but I don't necessarily feel good about myself.
Hmm. So that's like the good on look you look good on the outside, but inside it's like so calm waters on top and sharks below.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
there have been studies, and of course, there's a difference between men and women. And the
Mm-hmm.
studies show that 20% of men have issues with their self image, whereas 40% of women have issues with their self image.
Mm. Um, which is if you don't mind, I'd like to I use this in my motivational talks about have a guy day. So I encourage women to have a guy day and they go, well, are you male bashing? No, I'm actually saying we could learn something from men because most women think they are fatter, not as good looking, and not as smart as they actually are. Proof is you compliment a woman on her outfit and she'll say, oh, got this like 30 years ago for 99 cents, or you nice earrings and it's like, oh, I lost it, da, 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 da. Or you your hair looks great, oh, I didn't even wash it this morning. Hmm.
Mm,
Sound familiar? And then men on the other hand, most men think they are better looking, more buff, and have more hair than they actually do. So we could use a little bit of that denial or self-image. Are you kidding me? So I my best personal example is a friend of my husband's was big boy, big boy, and not in a, football muscle kind of guy. He was like overweight and it looked like he had like nachos every day for every meal. So I was walking behind him and he sees this woman who was a plus size and he said, "Fat cow." And I went it took everything for me not to, well, hit him, but I turned around and I wanted to say, "Do you look in the mirror? Like you can say that about that woman and you are like way worse off." But that's what I'm talking about. If you can be kind to yourself, women, and don't see yourself so critically, I think it would do us some good.
mhm. And they broke it down and they said there are three elements to self image, and then there are six dimensions to self image. And I was
Wow.
like, I never looked at it like that.
Mhm.
So the three elements to a self-image. They said the way a person perceives or thinks of him or herself, the way a person interprets others' perceptions of what he or she thinks or others perceives of him or herself, and the way a person would like to be, their ideal self. So I was like, that's interesting how they perceive themselves. So this is the reflective self. So, they say as a person thinketh, so they are. This is that manifest destiny kind of thing. And so the way a person interprets others' perception. So I am what you think I am. That's one way of looking at it. And the way a person would like to be.
Okay. So help me with this. Is self-image so as I want to be seen or how someone else sees me? You want that to be a match?
So those are just the three elements. That's how they broke it down.
Oh, okay.
So those are just the three elements. And then they said that there are the 6 dimensions. So there's a physical dimension, which is how a person evaluates his or her appearance. There's a psychological dimension, which is how a person evaluates his or her personality. An intellectual dimension, which is how a person evaluates their intelligence. The skills dimension, which is how a person evaluates his or her social and technical skills. The moral dimension, which is how a person evaluates his or her values and principles. And then the sexual dimension, which is how a person feels he or she fits into societal masculine or feminine norms.
All right. So let's practice. Put the moose on the table.
Mhm.
First dimension on a scale of 1 to 10. And you can play along if you would like. Those of you watching, I see the eyeballs, so I know you're here. If you're tuned in and wondering what's going on in studio today, this is Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind, AM 1050, FM 106.5. And it is time for Doctors in the House, my special Wednesday series with myself and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
We're talking about self-image. And now I'm going to put theory into practice. Dr. Tiffany's always great about bringing in the latest and greatest theory. She just did 7 aspects, six aspects of self-image. And if you'd like to play along, I'm going to rate myself. And if Dr. Tiffany wants to play on a scale of 1 to 10, on the aspect of what is my self-image on the physical plane, looks plane, right? Well, that was the first one. Okay. So I'll say I rate myself an 8. And let me tell you, it's been a lot of work to get it there, believe it or not. When you're told you're fat and ugly when you're a kid, you tend to think that way, even though you try to prove it wrong by modeling and all these other things. So I'm at an 8. I have to say most of my life, I was like at a 4. Even when I was on the runway as a model, outside I may have looked good, but inside I was really not in a good place on self-image. All right. What about you? Where would you say your number is?
Well, I always say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I believe that to some people, I may not be their cup of tea, but to other people, I might be their walking perfection. So I'm going to leave it at that. I don't believe in numbers per se.
Okay.
I leave it as a statement.
Okay. But I am asking what you think of yourself as far as self-image, because I want to see if there is an ideal number for people to have what is the optimum self-image so that you are 88% happy and that you are in that 88% self-esteem?
But I will say 88.
Okay. That's exactly what. So I did 8. You said 8.8. So here we go. Next category.
The psychological dimension, how a person evaluates his or her personality.
I'll say 9. I think I have a pretty good personality. And
I would actually match that. I would agree.
okay, cool. For me or for you?
For me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Next dimension. Isn't
Of
this
course,
fun? You may
yes,
not think it's fun, but I think it's very
yes.
fun.
I'm biased. I think I'm pretty awesome.
Hey,
It's the
and
Leo
that
in
is
us.
good self-image. That's what we're talking about. We're staying
Yes,
on top. All
it's
right.
the Leo
Next.
in us. Intellectual dimension, how a person evaluates his or her intelligence. Well, we are both doctors. I'm the MD, you're the PhD. I think we have some intelligence about us. Um, I would rate us a 10.
I'll say 9.2. And because PhD just stands for piled higher and deeper. So
Well, I'm going to give myself a 10 because I
good
help
for
save
you.
people's lives.
Good
So,
for you. Yeah. 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 All right. And then
skills dimension, how a person evaluates his or her social and technical skills.
so social, I would say as emotional IQ, EIQ, and technical is just IQ or skill mastery.
I would
So
give
go
my-
ahead. Go ahead. You go first.
myself a 9 because I still have a lot of work to do computer wise. And I know I have yet to master the computer and I have growth there.
Well, it's funny because 9 to me is like super high. Maybe it's my Chinese background where we're taught to say, if you ask a carpenter if he does good work, they'll say, "Oh, no, 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 just average," because that's what you're supposed to say. Anyways, I will say 8.8 on
Oh,
skills.
well, see, I'm
Maybe
looking at the
9.
social,
Maybe
but you're
9.
you're
Yeah,
you're a,
yeah.
so- you're a social butterfly. So yeah, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
let
yeah.
you go yourself.
Okay.
Moral dimension, how a person evaluates his or her values and principles.
I'll do an 8.
Okay, I will go with an 8 as well.
All
I'm not
right.
perfect, but I have growth.
Yeah.
Sexual dimensions, how a person feels he or she fits into societal's masculine/feminine norms.
I don't know if I like the way that's defined. I thought sexual self-image was how, and I'm just going to change the definition because it's my show. So
Mm,
I'm going to rate myself as far as what my sexual self-image is. How do I feel as a sexual being? How I'm seen, how I move my body, how I you know am comfortable with that aspect, not as a woman versus man binary. I want to keep that aside and make the definition my own and say this is the biggest one that I have work to do in. So I'm gonna say a 6, and this is up from I like 2. So we're still working on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give myself a 7 because
Okay.
7 is complete, but it still
Yeah,
needs goals.
I am not complete on that one for sure. Next.
Well, that's it. Those are the 7
Oh, 7.
dimensions.
Okay. Yeah. So I like that. I like the breakdown because it gives you it's like that, I have a not an answering machine but a questioning machine, and when you call it, I ask you, who are you and what do you want? That question, answering that question and answering those 7 aspects of what is my self-image is really good practice. It's a good life habit to examine because self-awareness is the first step if you want to be happier with yourself. These are
Mm,
the kinds of questions you ask. So thank you, Dr. Tiffany, for bringing that particular aspect of self-image into the party.
Okay. And then I have some examples of some positive self-images and some negative self-images.
And
And
we're
so,
going to come back to that because it is past the halfway time and we need to take a quick break. News, weather, traffic, and a word from our sponsor. So when we come back, Dr. Tiffanie will give us some examples of good self-image and not so good self-image. We're so glad that you're here. Don't go away. We will be right back with more of Doctors in the House with myself and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
back in 2 and 2. Peace in, peace out.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tiffanie Tate, and I'm here to talk to you about my books. The first book is Bad Touching. It's the story of two sisters who go to an assembly and learn about appropriate touching and not so appropriate touching. You want to pick these books up to keep any child around you safe as soon as possible. The next book is Little Engine Mia Sings. This book is also available as an audiobook. It's the story about a little train engine named Mia that gets bullied on the playground by a train engine named Bruce. You want to pick this book up because it teaches children about friendship, fellowship, and how to speak up and speak out. The last book is called Money Matters. It teaches children about saving, investing, and tithing. You can pick these books up on my website at www.drtiffanitate.com, drtiffanitate.com, or on Amazon or at barnesandnobles.com. Don't delay. Get one of these books or all three of these books today. You will not.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, AM 1050, FM 106.5, home to the Asian Oprah. Number one talk in the IE. Thank you very much. And on now for 678 consecutive weeks. Tomorrow will be the celebration of my 13th year. And you can always catch us live every weekday morning here on my YouTube TV channel. Please do free subscribe. Give me the finger, not that one, but this one, and you'll get an alert every weekday morning as well. There's a playlist called Red Carpet with my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, and other fascinating people. And you can tell it's Wednesday this morning because I have Dr. Tiffanie Tate in the house. It is Doctors in the House with myself and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
who I cut off by accident at the end of her wonderful introducing of her writings. Please go to drtiffanitate.com. It's a IE instead of the Y on the Tiffany, but just use my assistant Google. You'll find her. And then pick up one or all of her really important books that help kids learn without sort of lecturing them, but having a really creative way of teaching them things like bad touching, which is such an important topic to help kids understand. So sorry about that, Dr. Tiffany, but extra little plug there. And the topic of today is
self-image.
Really? Hey, you! Hey! Hey, you!
Mm.
And we said that she was going to come back and give examples of good self image and not so good self image. So take it away, Dr. Tiffany.
Yes. So negative self-image looks like seeing yourself as unattractive and undesirable, having an image of yourself as being unintelligent or even considering yourself stupid, um, seeing an unhealthy person when you look in the mirror, or believing that you are nowhere near your ideal version of yourself, or even thinking that others perceive you as all of those things, or even you see yourself as those things.
Yeah, it reminds me of one of my Happy 88 tools that I love called Drop Out of MSU University. And especially for women, we talked about Have a Guy Day earlier. It's interesting if someone looks at me funny and I just go to MSU University, which is make shiitake up, and I've got this whole story of why they're mad at me or they think that I shouldn't be whatever. And it's they just had indigestion. It had nothing to do with me, but I have fabricated this negative self-image, negative impact on others, which is so silly. But we do that. If we're not on a solid base with ourselves, which is why I make you do the bottom of the bun on the gratitude sandwich, if
Mhm.
you don't know that what you're good at or how good you are most of the time, you're going to be screwed because you're going to think that people don't like you, which is like ridiculous.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to surround yourself with people who appreciate you for who you are, not someone who's going to be highly critical of you, constantly nitpicking you and the things about your physical characteristics. Um, and positive self-images, seeing yourself as attractive and desirable, having an image of yourself as a smart person, an intelligent person. And like Dr. Marissa said, doing those positive affirmations every day, seeing yourself as a happy person, a healthy person, when you look at yourself in the mirror, believing that you are at least some of those things in your own head, having that ideal version of yourself or who you want to be, and speaking those things that are not as though they are, and thinking that others perceive you as all those things that we just mentioned, because you want to be those things. So believe those things.
Mm, absolutely. And some people will say, but I've made so many mistakes, or I've done this wrong, or I got criticized about this. Honestly, you get more compliments than you get criticisms. But what we do as human beings is tend to focus on the one criticism versus the 99 compliments that you've gotten. And it's very much like the stick that Abraham Hicks talks about in the law of attraction. Every subject, including yourself, has the end that is good or positive, and then end that is not so good and not so positive. And you choose where you focus your attention. I had 99 compliments as a professor when I taught in the MBA school for 6 years, way back when, and I had tons and tons of compliments. But I focused on that one insult, and it was a pretty doozy of an insult. And I can't believe I'm going to tell you right now what it is, but I say it because I have to consciously remember that that was one out of like 99 positive things. But I had one guy say, I would rather chew glass than have to listen to another of Dr. Marissa's lectures and Dr. Pay's lectures. And it really cut me, but I had to go, okay, that was his opinion. And now look at all of these evaluations that were completely, oh, best professor I've ever had, makes concepts, really understandable. She's very fit. All these things that were so amazing was my job to turn and focus on those.
Mhm.
Don't tell me that you have reasons to criticize yourself. Okay, but you've got many more reasons to compliment yourself. And that's personal mastery. That's why I'm so adamant about bringing this particular course to all universities, to all schools, because we don't know how to affirm ourselves. Instead, we listen to that pesky little critic in our heads that just take us down.
Absolutely. And I think it's important when we look within ourselves to find that inner strength to keep moving forward and to reevaluate what it is at the core as to the why. And I always say, okay, why do I feel this way? A lot of times it's trauma from our childhood, it's trauma from past relationships. And I can't say it's going to be easy to deal with these things. A lot of times it's not going to be easy to deal with these things. But the best way to address it is to identify the cause and to address the cause and to give yourself grace to deal with the cause. Because if you just stick your head in the sand and not address it, you're going to keep reliving the cycle and you're going to be stuck in a rut, and that is not what you should have to do, and that is not what we want for you.
Absolutely not. If what you do not deal with will come back and deal with you. So, as an executive coach in organizations, as a corporate psychologist, as well as a happiness coach, I've watched people who bury all of those negative self image. And they're the people who, they can dish it out, but they can't take it because the zinger hurts them so badly, they become crippled by that. So the only way to deal with that is to deal with it and to go back into that little kid place, even though psychobabble's not my favorite either, that inner child, whatever you want to call it, but it is something that really cut you in the past, that if you can't work to soothe yourself and to heal that and solve it yourself, solve and solve, then it will constantly, that's the chip on your shoulder. That's, that's the goat that you're letting someone get your goat, right?
Mhm.
That's what it is. So if you can, whether it's therapy or a coach or a best friend or self-help books like mine that have exercises, 8 ways to happiness from wherever you are. That's why I wrote it, is for you to do that inner work so you are the boss of your self-image. No one can help you with your self-image. They can tell you you're beautiful. I'm a poster child. I have so many people complimenting me all the time. But if I don't deal with that voice that says, "Yeah, but they don't know you yet," or they haven't, or "Yeah, they think you're hot and beautiful and sexy, but if you take your clothes off, they're gonna run away with their hair on fire." That kind of BS belief systems that I carried for so many years and to some extent still do. And that's what I get to work on. That's my work. Self image is your work. But the good news is you can get to a place, maybe not perfect, but certainly so you can be your biggest fan. That's my definition of good self image. You
Mhm.
are your biggest fan.
Mhm. And like Dr. Marissa said, the example she gave about her husband's friend, hurt people hurt people.
Mm.
And when I was growing up, I was told, handle your problems before your problems handle you. And when you ignore things, they become like a cycle and they just come around and they end up biting you in your bottom. And I think it's important to address things. Me as a Leo, I love to handle my problems head on. I don't know how you like to handle your problems. I can't tell you how to handle your problems, but I can tell you with compassion and understanding for yourself, you can address your self-image issues because that is the best way to love yourself is to have compassion for yourself. And if you're having self-image issues, you should address them with love, care, and compassion. Because if anyone is treating you unkind, look at yourself in the mirror and say, how am I reflecting myself? Because a lot of times, if you are reflecting that, they may be treating you whatever you are reflecting. Now, if someone is just treating you badly and you don't deserve it, you might want to reevaluate the quality of that relationship because everyone deserves love, kindness, and respect. And if
Mm.
you are not getting love, kindness, and respect in a relationship, you should reevaluate that relationship and decide whether or not you want to keep that relationship in your life. I was once told, your feet are not nailed to the floor, and you need to decide, are your feet nailed to the floor in that relationship? And do you really need that relationship? I can't tell you what to do. Dr. Marissa can't tell you what to do. And
Well,
if
we
it's
can tell you, but it's not going to make a difference unless you want to change that.
now, if it's you mistreating you, then you need to have a self-talk and say, listen, self, I
Mhm.
have got to love myself a little bit better than what I'm doing. And if it's going to start with positive affirmations every day, put a sticky note on the mirror and talk to yourself every day. That's
Mhm.
why we do that at the beginning of every show. Listen, people, it actually works. Try it.
Absolutely. Dr. Tiffany just gave you some tissues for your issues. And allegorically, now I'm going to give two caveats. One is um, there's a very fine line between affirmations and pure like gobbledygook. And the gobbledygook is it's so far from your BS, your belief system, that I mean, you know, looking in the mirror and saying, "You look like somebody gorgeous." I don't even know what name to use, but it reminds me of one of the episodes of I think it was Love Is Blind or something where she sort of let on that she looked like some
A
movie star.
superstar? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we're not saying because there has to be some aspect of belief in it, or it's just another lie that you tell yourself that then you beat yourself up about. So I will say that I could not look in the mirror and say I love you. It would make me cry. I couldn't look in the mirror and say you are beautiful when I see all in full, naked, all the sags or whatever it was. So someone told me just the part that you can actually believe, just start small. And so I looked in the mirror and I go, you, and I've heard people say you beautiful cheekbones. And I actually like my cheekbones. So I'll say, you have beautiful cheekbones. So there has to be some level of a believability. Just start there. And when you can start there, then it can grow because then that action begins to train your mind to look for what is good or look for what is positive instead of being so critical. So that's my one caveat. The second caveat is, if Dr. Tiffany is really good at saying, check out who are you hanging out with, right? If they're constantly criticizing you, why are you there? And that is a little tough love from me. Is you attract people based on where you are. So if you're complaining about the men that you're dating, that they're all critical and they don't treat you right, then there's something in you that is not treating you right, that continues to, attract the same kind of guy or gal or boss. So it starts with, the buck stops right over here. So ask yourself, am I treating myself and thinking about myself the way I want to be treated? And if the answer is no, that's where the work starts. I don't want to attract a guy right now based on how I feel about my body, because I'm going to bring a guy who is critical of, that's what happened in my marriage. So I got to work on that stuff before I go out and look for someone who is at, that level. So there you go. A little bit of tough love on me.
Yeah. A lot of times we sometimes just have to hold up the mirror and say, what is it that I want? And a lot of times when we point that finger, we forget about the fingers that are pointing back at us.
Mhm.
And we need to do some self-reflection. We are quick to point the finger at others, but a lot of times we don't want to think about what's going on within. And before we look on the outside, we need to look on the inside and do some self-reflection. And that's why I wanted to talk about self-image.
Great.
Self-image is about self.
Yes, absolutely. And my final word on this is my favorite African American saying that says, when there is no enemy within, no one outside can hurt you. When there is no enemy within, then no one outside can hurt you.
Okay. Well, my final word is this, and I made this up. 2 steps forward and 1 step back is still 1 step in the right direction. So no matter what's going on in your life, as long as you keep moving, you're still moving. So don't let anyone stop you. And as far as your progress is going, as long as your progress is going forward and you're making progress with respect to your self-image, it doesn't matter what other people say about you. It matters what you say about you. And as long as you're growing in your own eyes, it's a progress and it's an improvement. And continue to love yourself.
Hey, you! Hey! Hey, you!
And that is Dr. Tiffany's final word. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as we have. A great topic, Dr. Tiffany, as usual. Look forward to seeing you on Friday for Straight Talk with all three of my favorite co-hosts. Tomorrow, please do come back for a very, very great interview with people who are actually making a difference for the homelessness problem, especially with youth. My return guest is Jeffrey Sitkoff, founder of Doors of Change, taking the homeless youth off of the San Diego streets and beyond. And he's bringing a repeat guest and a celebration guest for my 13th year, the daughter of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, Lucy Arnaz. So that's tomorrow's show. Friday's show is the co-host show. Thanks for joining us today on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show, and Doctors in the House with myself and
Dr. Tiffanie Tate.
it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Dr. Tiffany, take us out.
Now go and have the best day ever.